Welcome to the Unlock Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Casey, and today's guest is Michelle Cehn. Michelle is on a mission to empower people to make kind choices and enjoy the many benefits of a plant-powered life. Michelle is the founder of the popular vegan lifestyle website, World of Vegan, co-author of the Friendly Vegan Cookbook, and co-creator of the Dairy Detox. She is also an avid photographer and filmmaker and uses all of her passions to help people make lifestyle changes easy and fun. So, Michelle, thank you so much for taking time to join me. I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah, so for those of you listening, actually I was connected to Michelle through Tony Okamoto, who was a guest on the podcast on episode 36. So if you haven't listened to Tony's episode, go back and check it out. She's awesome. But Tony connected me with Michelle, and they've co-written a cookbook together, and they've collaborated together for Plant-Based on a Budget for the meal plans. But Michelle, before we get into all of the details of that, why don't you start with your backstory a little bit and what led you to where you are right now?
Sure, yeah. So my story started quite early in life. It actually started with animals. So I was a huge animal lover growing up. And when I was 8 years old, I kind of made the connection that the meat on my plate came from the animals that I loved. And it was at that time, I was very young. I didn't know any other vegetarians, but I decided I don't want to eat animals. And my mom told me, "Oh, that means you're a vegetarian." So it kind of like that's when kind of the beginning of my awareness about food started. And I started learning about, factory farming and where our food came from and the whole process. So over the years, I kind of different aspects of our food system became awakened in my mind. I learned about the dairy industry when I was in college, and that's when I decided to go vegan. And as I was making all of these changes, the health and wellness part never really even entered my mind to begin with. I thought, it's okay if I'm unhealthy. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm, living in accordance with my values. I don't want to cause harm or cruelty to others. And it was after I made the shift and decided to go vegan that I started really tuning into health, because I was like, well, I need to make sure that I'm still being healthy for my body. And that's when I started just doing a lot of research, reading books, watching documentaries, talking with health professionals. And I realized that, oh my gosh, like, not only is this helping animals, but this is actually incredibly beneficial to my body, like to just my general health and wellness. Eating vegan or eating plant-based can be one of the most healthy ways to live. And so as I started to kind of like uncover those truths that are so kind of hidden away in our society of just like advertisements and slogans from all these big industries and processed foods everywhere.
Well, that process is kind of hidden, whenever you start to really think about how did this get here, all of it's kind of hidden within all of the commercials and, like you were saying, the campaigns on TV and all of that.
Yeah, everything is behind closed doors. And when you go and like think about, you hold a package in your hand, and if like images were to flash through your head about how that got there, if for like the vast majority of the stuff like in the center of the supermarket, we would be horrified. We would drop that and run a million miles in the other direction.
Right.
But then you hold like a vegetable, or you hold, some quinoa or whatever, and that story is not traumatic at all. So just everything started to kind of align and click for the animals, for the planet, for health, for well-being, for just every issue that I cared about seemed to click with my daily food choices, which is what I'm spending the most of my consumer dollars on. It's a great way that we can vote and treat ourselves well. So just everything kind of came together and clicked. And now this is like my huge passion, is just showing other people that it's accessible, it's easy, it can be affordable, it's fun, and just making living a healthy, compassionate life accessible to all.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that you added in there that it's the easiest way to vote. I don't, I've seen this in a few different places, just a quote that's similar to that, but just saying like you have the opportunity to vote 3 times every single day. And the food choices that you make determine a lot of these issues that are related to, like you were saying, environment, obviously healthcare. I mean, all of these choices are
workers' rights,
workers' rights,
everything.
everything. Yeah. So you have a huge opportunity to really make a difference. And it doesn't just happen on every 4 years you vote for, a politician. Like you have the opportunity to make a difference by the food choices that you're making.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not only that you have the opportunity to make a difference, you are literally,
right.
you're voting every day. You're voting every time you spend $1 anywhere, and you're voting every time you sit down to eat. And so a lot of people don't think about that, but like you're voting. So if you're voting for crappy things, like you are actually voting for more of those to be made and for that to be more prevalent in our society. So yeah, we have a lot of power, and we're all using it. It's just, I think we're not all aware that we're using it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, so you started to, make that transition. So was there any obstacles that you had doing that? Or was it just pretty seamless because you were just following your values and everything kind of fell in place? Or, what was that like for you?
Yeah, there are definitely obstacles. I see it as kind of like it was a learning curve for sure. Mm-hmm. So at first you feel like you're like hiking up a mountain, and then like once you figure it all out, it's like roller skating downhill. But the big one for me, as it is for so many, was dairy. So I had decided, okay, I want to eat vegan. And I would like go get a burrito and be like, oh my gosh, what I can't have cheese on there. Like, this is going to be horrible.
Or pizza, like, right.
Pizza. Like I ate cereal like all of the time, all of my life. And I was like, what am I going to put in there? So, I started adjusting my palate and getting it used to soy milk and almond milk and rice milk and hemp milk and all these other milks that are now out there. And, I realized like instead of cheese, you can just put some avocado and salt. I just started learning all of these
hummus
options. Yeah, hummus. All of these options that made the scary things that I thought I would be sacrificing to live without. It made me realize like, oh my God, there's this whole other world of amazing, delicious food that it actually expanded my diet and expanded my horizons on food more than I ever expected.
Isn't it crazy like how food is one of the most, and I know you know this because of the field that you're in, but food is like one of the most controversial things to talk about with people. People are so attached to food, and it makes sense because what we eat is what we are, and that forms our thoughts and our actions. But like cheese is a whole another level of like attachment, and like people get extremely I'm trying to think of the word. Defensive about cheese. Like, I think that's one of the biggest arguments of going plant-based is you hear, oh, I can never give up cheese. Like, isn't it crazy how attached people are to that? Like, it blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense. We dig into this in the dairy detox a bit, but when you think about it, so cheese is like a concentrated form of milk, sort of. And it's high in fat, it's high in sodium, it's high in all these things that our bodies have evolved to crave, of course. But also like this is made from milk that was meant from a mother to a baby cow. So like in this mother's milk are these things called casomorphins. And it actually like makes the baby cow kind of it like triggers in the brain pleasure centers, right? Like and it makes the babies like crave more of it, want to come back and drink more of mother's milk because they need that to grow. And so when we're eating that as adults, like it got these literal addictive factors in it. So no wonder we're so attached. I mean, I look back on how scared I was to quote give up cheese, although now I eat plant-based cheese all the time. And it makes sense. Like, oh yeah, like this is something that was created to be craved. It needed to be consumed because it had to grow this tiny calf into a huge heifer,
like 1,600, 2,000 pound cow.
Yeah,
like it's insane.
Pound cow. Yeah. Fast too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And it's like, and there's so many. I know that we've seen, it's pretty common to see these in a lot of the documentaries coming up, which is awesome. But, we're the only species to drink the milk of another species, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's just crazy because like you were saying, like a cow's milk is made for a baby cow. Like
Yeah.
a human's milk is made for humans. Like it's kind of weird when you think about it, like it's not made to mix and match. It just doesn't make
Right.
sense.
Yeah, it's been designed by years of evolution to be the perfect growth formula for that mother's baby. So cow's milk is formulated different than human's milk. It's got different ratios of proteins to sugars to all the different things. Is very different from that which a human would drink from a human's milk. And same with like rat's milk or a pig's milk. Like they're all different. And we would like they do these campaigns where they hand out like free milk on the street to people and then reveal like, oh, this is actually dog's milk, or oh, this is actually pig's milk, or oh, this is actually human's milk. And
Gross.
I don't think they actually are those animals' milks, but people are just horrified. Like we'll drop the cup, we'll spit out on the street, just horrified. And it's like, what's the difference? Like,
yeah, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And I was doing a little bit of research on milk before we jumped on, and something that I thought was really interesting that it kind of goes to what we were just talking about how, you know, a cow's milk is made for baby cow. And like, but I thought it was cool because it was basically saying that the majority of humans, they naturally stop producing lactase, which is, you know, what breaks down the sugars in milk. So it starts doing that somewhere between the ages of like 2 and 5. So typically when a baby would start to wean off nursing, right? So, you know, for most normal conditions, this happens like after, let's say, a baby is weaned or after a cow is weaned. Then these enzymes start to drop off. So it's basically our body saying like, okay, we've had enough of this. So now we don't need these enzymes to break it down anymore because we don't need that anymore. So it's basically like it's not made for long-term consumption. And I just thought that was extremely interesting because it's not something that's like, you know, you have to have on a daily basis because we weren't designed to break it down. That's why you see so much lactose intolerance and all of these digestive issues.
Yeah. And that what you're describing, like the inability to digest milk after childhood is lactose intolerant. And more than 50% of the world is lactose intolerant. Like it's just, yeah, we're not built for it. And that's when you see how brilliant and like scheming the marketing campaigns behind milk were. Like if you look at the history of milk and how it found its way into everyday use, like always on the table as we were growing up as children,
right. Food pyramid,
it's just so crazy. Yeah. Like how it was like brought in by the government or there's surpluses. So then they have to create these big marketing campaigns to like use up the milk and then people are used to it. So they're always like just how it became a part of our diet was nothing to do with health and nutrition and only to do with, you know, industries producing things and it needing to be sold.
Right.
That's it. Like it's profit.
It's a business.
Yeah. It's a business.
And now it's more, I mean, it's sad. I mean, now it's more government because what an impact that the dairy industry has. And that's a whole nother topic. We don't have to go off on a tangent with that, but I mean, it is crazy to think about how it became such a crucial part of what, you know, our food pyramid and all of that.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I'm optimistic about is that you see so many now dairy companies that are starting to make soy milk and almond milk and all these other milks.
So many.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, oh, don't support that because they're the dairy industry. But it's with the government ties, it's going to be very difficult to just shut down these huge industries that are so integrated into our society and employ so many people and so many people are profiting off of. But if a shift happens and they're
if there's a positive transition, absolutely.
Yeah, that they can just make more of the healthy plant-based milks and less of the animal milks, like that seems suddenly really doable. And you can see it happening. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, that's cool. So with your dairy detox, so when people check that out, like how is it laid out? What does it look like? And what can people expect to see by going through that 12-day detox program?
Yeah, so I created the 12-day dairy detox with my friend Allison River Sampson. She's a longtime vegan chef, kind of wellness coach, just awesome human being. And we structured the program so that it would be very kind of accessible, not too stressful. We made it just 12 days. And so when someone is like, I want to do something healthy for my body, they may not like know everything, but like maybe they've heard milk's not great for them or whatever, just want to kind of give it a try and get used to some other plant-based options in there. Then they sign up and we created a whole video series. So every day in your inbox, you get like a new video from us covering a different topic. So one day's on nutrition, one day's on milk specifically. We talk about cheese. We talk about like butter and other dairy products. We talk about, we have a day that's on the environment and like kind of the impacts of our food choices on the environment. So we kind of comprehensively cover the topic of dairy, but broken up into little tiny digestible and fun videos that you just get every morning. And then we also include tons of different recipes. So on the day that we're focused on cheese, we have like some recipes for DIY cheeses and some products to look out for in the grocery store. So there's kind of little lessons that can be integrated or little things that can be practiced along the way of the 12 days. And it's been really, really fun. We see like we have a little online community on Facebook for our dairy detox community, and people like share when they're making their very first almond milk and they've tried their first cheese and kind of what it's like, or they share their struggles, and then all these people kind of swoop in to give suggestions and help. So it's been a really just like empowering and awesome to be a part of helping people along this journey towards positivity and health and well-being.
That's cool. No, that's great that you have the community. It definitely makes it more doable, because I mean, whenever you look at something like, like if you make your own coconut milk or make your own almond milk, those things are it's so easy to make. It's way easier than what people think it is. So if you see, a few people making it in a community, or your friends are making it, and they're making it fun and simple, like that's a game changer.
Yeah, it definitely helps to have the camaraderie of it. Or like if you go and try vegan yogurt from the grocery store, like half of them out there are really delicious, but half of them out there are really gnarly. So if you try that and then you just decide this is how they all taste and you give up, like it just really helps to have the like people there to kind of crowdsource the information. And I know when I kind of evolved to eating vegan and eating plant-based at that time, like nearly a decade ago, there were not a ton of options. There was not really anyone making videos. There were not like courses and bazillion cookbooks, and like the resources were little, and the community was only local if you were lucky enough to have that local community. So a big part of my mission now is just to make sure, like with the technology available to us today and like all of the amazing choices and recipes and everything that makes living this way so amazing and delicious, I just want to make sure that people have that support network and have those resources right at their fingertips.
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of transition foods that's now available is really cool. And, and I'm not saying like, I mean, obviously, and this too, like there's so many not good vegan foods or not good vegan transition foods.
Definitely.
But I mean, listen, if you're going to occasionally use a vegan cheese or occasionally have one of these like frozen veggie burgers, I mean, that's not really different than whenever you have like a cheat meal as a non-vegan. If you're having a pizza night as a and you're not vegan, and I mean, you're not eating well that day, right? I mean, there's always transitions, and some are worse than others, but it's just being better most of the time. And then every once in a while, if you want to use some of these processed things, then that's okay. It's all about, moderation with what you're using.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And for me, like, as I mentioned, my journey started with the animals. It was not about health. And so my progression was very much like, okay, I was eating a lot of processed vegan foods, but then as like I learned about health and nutrition and wellness and like had more of an understanding of that. And this is what I see in most people is that even if you're eating like a high transition food diet, like with a lot of the processed vegan foods, like you start to just shift towards healthier and healthier. Like, why eat store-bought like ice cream when you can just whip up banana soft serve that's just bananas and nut milk in like 30 seconds, right? Like it tastes so good, and you're filling your body with the best foods.
And it's guilt-free. That's always good.
It just feels all around like you don't eat and then go, oh, why did I just eat all that? Like we have such amazing ways to create food that tastes just as good, but is good for our bodies, good for the planet, and good for animals. So like, why not? It's just a matter of like continuing to try all those things out there. Mm-hmm. And when you discover those foods that you can integrate into your life again and again, that check all those boxes, it's just a no-brainer. It's like a win for everyone.
Right. And yeah, and like you were saying, like then you transition to something that's even better. Like maybe you start off using something not as great, like you're using a processed, vegan cheese. But then all of a sudden you start making cashew cheese, which is basically just blended nuts and seasoning and tastes amazing, by the way. You wouldn't expect that you can make that kind of things. Like you can make cheesecake using cashews. Like it's amazing. Like people don't really believe that, but if you try it, it's incredible. But it's just taking one step at a time and gradually getting better and better and making the other things not the majority, and you get there. And it's a process. It's a process still. And I'm sure it is for you as well.
Absolutely. Like just recently, one little fun thing that I've kind of changed is I make smoothies all the time, like every day, every other day, something like that. And I usually just dump in like fruits, maybe some spinach, and a bunch of like vanilla sweet soy milk. Like that was just my routine. That was what was easy. Uh-huh. And then I just realized, like, instead of putting soy milk in there, I can dump in a handful of cashews, a handful of oats, and water, which just removes one layer of like the processing and additives and the packaging, and just like brings it to the raw roots. And it's even creamier. I swear to God, like I love it even more. And it's so easy, like
right. And that's cheaper too. Because I mean, if you're gonna pay like $4 for a gallon of almond or whatever milk that you're using, a handful of almonds or cashews, you're just gonna save a ton of money.
A ton of money. Yeah. Oats are some of the most affordable foods on the planet, and they get creamy. Like you can milk them. It's crazy. And you don't even need to like drain it through a nut milk bag.
See, like those little memes on Instagram. It's like somebody's milking an almond.
Yeah. It's like I woke up at 4 a.m. to milk my almonds.
That's funny. But before we jump off in a few minutes, Michelle, I did want to hit a few minutes of different misconceptions that people have with dairy and, consuming milk on a daily basis. Just because I think that's kind of what holds a lot of people in is they want strong bones. They want their kids to be strong and, have strong muscle mass and strong bones, because that's what we've been taught at such a young age. So if we can just hit on a few minutes of different misconceptions and then different things that can clear up by making that switch.
Absolutely. Yeah. The strong bones, we have a whole day, we'll focus on nutrition and the dairy detox, but a big part of that is talking about calcium, right? Mm-hmm. We were all trained that we need to drink milk to get strong bones, which obviously isn't true, considering the human body wasn't even made to continue drinking milk since childhood. Like if we just start to like think it out rationally, we can realize like, oh yeah, how did we survive before we were drinking milk? Like obviously our bodies were doing okay.
Right.
But when you're thinking about where do I get my calcium from, just everyone's answer is milk. But really there's calcium in like almost all plant foods. Like leafy greens are rich in calcium. There's calcium in like almost everything.
Like nuts and seeds and all of these things, like the things that animals get their calcium from.
Yes, exactly. So you think about like, it's the same thing with protein. When people are going vegetarian, they're like, where am I going to get my protein from? And it's like, well, where did the
rhino
elephants get there from? Where did the rhino, where does the gorilla? But I mean, avocados, butternut squash, almonds, like asparagus, cabbage, spinach, onions, like there's just calcium in everything. And if you're worried about it, I mean, the other thing is like if you're getting almond milk or soy milk or even like orange juice from the store, a lot of those things are enriched with calcium. Mm-hmm. If you're having cereal or any of those, which obviously these are more processed foods, but a lot of like the standard American diet foods are enriched with nutrients to add an extra layer. But I mean, you can always just Google calcium rich foods or vitamin D or vitamin D's from the sunshine, but like whatever nutrient that you're worried about.
Well, that's like one of the best things, that vitamin D3. I mean, that's more beneficial than calcium for your bones. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just the only thing you need to do with nutrition, or the first thing that you need to do, is just think about it logically, because so much of what we've been fed is from industries trying to sell products. And like a lot of the food, even in milk, a lot of the calcium and other nutrients in there are supplemented in cow's milk. Like those are just added supplements, just like they would be in orange juice or in other foods.
Right. And what's cool about, when you get calcium from plants, you're actually able to absorb it better because your body can actually process it. Whenever you have something like a fortified milk, you're not going to absorb all of that. And where dairy is so acidic, that's actually what's leaching the calcium from the bones and can actually increase the rates of osteoporosis, which is pretty counteractive from what we're typically used to hearing. But I mean, that's just what, studies are showing that is what's causing it.
Yeah, there's a graph that looks at like the areas of the world where bone fractures are the highest, and it's the areas of the world where milk consumption is the highest. Like, so all these things that we've been taught, like drink milk so that your bones will be strong and they won't break. Like when you look at it, that doesn't really seem to be affiliated in reality. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
Turn directly to the source, which is the whole foods.
Absolutely.
the source of all.
That's cool. And then did you want to talk about some of the results that because I know you're around it all day because you have this community, just some of the results people are seeing when they do this 12-day detox. Like I love that it's 12 days because you can give up dairy a day or two and you might feel something, you might not feel anything. But if you do, 12 days, even like 2 weeks, you can actually start to see benefits happening. So what are some of the things that you're seeing like throughout your community?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing that people say is, I thought this was going to be so hard and it's so wonderful, or it's so much easier than I thought. So it just breaks down that barrier for people. And then once they've been doing it, we start to hear like, oh my gosh, my skin has cleared up. Like dairy can be a big contributor to acne that people have been struggling with and using all these like chemicals on their face, trying to clear it up. But it's really like from within the food that we're eating very often. So that's a big one. Digestive troubles, like, IBS, just various digestive things. People often feel better. Like so many things like congestion, like mucus that people often deal with on a daily basis, like kind of goes away. And then there's like bigger things long-term that we haven't heard our students talking about because this is more of a short-term thing, but things like making yourself less likely to get certain types of cancers, all these different long-term benefits for really significant diseases that end the lives of so many people. Like we can proof ourselves a little bit from having to experience that by eating healthier and cutting out the dairy and cutting out the meat too.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because when you started to do it at a younger age as well, you were talking about like the sinuses and the congestion, like that helps so much with younger kids, and especially if they're having breathing issues or asthma issues. You touched on the skin, so like if a child has a lot of acne, like try cutting back the dairy and you're probably going to see a significant decrease in that. Or if you have a teenager that has a very not regular menstrual cycle, like cut out dairy and I promise you will start to see improvements with that. It's just things like that. When you decrease the amount of hormones that you're putting in your body and these pesticides that are in conventional dairy, and it's really cool to see the positive effects that it can have just by decreasing it or cutting it out altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many just like kind of everyday things that we live with. Even just energy. People say they feel more energy. It's just so many things just clear up and your body's able to kind of like go back to its natural state. And you mentioned antibiotics, and it's just when you think about a mother, this is like a mother who just had a baby, so she's already like her hormones are raging. Like
I had a baby 18 months ago, so I'm watching commercials right now, crying every 2 seconds. I feel you.
Yeah, like her natural hormones are raging. Plus, like in a lot of cases, they're pumping additional hormones into these mothers, so they produce more milk. They're putting antibiotics in there. Just like the living conditions are often awful. Oftentimes, like these mother cows will get mastitis because they're producing so much more milk than it would be natural, and they're just hooking them up to machines. So that means their udders become inflamed and swollen and kind of like pussy. So that's why they say like in every liter of milk, there's like pus cells, there's blood cells, there's just like all this stuff that blah, like, why would we want to eat that when there's 100 other types of milks that are just completely clean and healthy for us?
Definitely.
So it's easy to get away from all of that nastiness. Yeah, it's just like a little bit of a transition, just learning the new options.
Right, which is why I love what you're doing. And if you guys are listening, I do encourage you guys to go try out the her 12-day detox, because I mean, you don't know unless you try it. I fully respect everybody's decision on, I know this is a pretty controversial topic. I have close friends that feel the complete opposite, and I have nothing but love for everybody's opinions. But you don't know unless you try it. You don't know how it affects your body and how you feel until you try it out. And 12 days is an amazing stretch to really give it a go. So Michelle, what is the best way for people to not only follow you on social media and your website, but to try out the 12-day detox? That way they can really see how positively it can affect them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can sign up at thedairy.detox.com. You can find all the information there. And we also have a cookbook if you just want to kind of explore a bunch of plant-based recipes and integrate them yourself. And if you sign up, we'll bring you into the Facebook community. And it's just a very positive, non-judgmental. We have people coming into this from every stage of eating and everything. And we're just like a support network for you to try these new things. So yeah, I hope that people will check it out. If you want other resources, there's lots of free recipes and more over on worldofvegan.com with just kind of more information and recipes. Yeah, and I also make YouTube videos. So if anyone just kind of wants to get a sense of vegan living or just kind of more lifestyle stuff, I publish those every week over on YouTube. So awesome. That's just like the World of Vegan YouTube channel. Yeah.
Cool. And then what about like Facebook and Instagram?
Absolutely. So on Facebook, we're just facebook.com/the dairy detox, or you can just look up the dairy detox, and we're pretty active on there. And Instagram, the most activities happening over at vegan on Instagram. So easy one to find, and you can see a lot of.
How did you land that?
It was actually this father had it, and he had posted like a few family photos there. This was years ago, and so I reached out and I was like, it's my mission in life to kind of like, help people go vegan or help people to eat healthier.
Right.
And yeah, he's just like, that's awesome.
He just handed it over.
Yeah, he's like, just make a donation to Farm Sanctuary and I'm good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really awesome.
Yeah, you lucked out on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like blossomed into this entire just community of awesomeness as well. So yeah, definitely hop over there. We're also at the Dairy Detox on Instagram as well. Not quite as active there, but definitely follow along if you're interested.
Cool. Sounds good. And then Michelle, just one closing question that I ask every guest. But if you could just give one piece of advice to the audience, it may be something that's helped you along your journey or just life in general. But if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
It would be just try more, like approach everything with an open mind and just try new things. Yeah. Like if you're not sure, just try it, see how it goes, see how it feels.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, we can progress so far in life if we just approach things with an open mind and allow ourselves to evolve, like continue evolving rather than sticking in our ways that we were kind of habituated as children or whenever in life. I think it's so important to just like constantly question and learn and try new things and just evolve. Like that's how we become better as individuals and as like a species. This is how we move forward. So
that's awesome. No, I love that. That's amazing. And Michelle, thank you so much for coming on. I had a blast talking to you. I could talk about this kind of stuff all day. But no, I loved having you, and I'm excited to share with what you're doing with everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I absolutely love your podcast and everything you do to spread awareness about health and wellness. And it's been such an honor being here. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Michelle as much as I did. She's really amazing. Be sure to check out all of her websites, all of her social media accounts, and definitely sign up for her 12-day dairy detox. You will love it. But you can find all of her links, all of her social media, her website, all of that. You can find it in the show notes. But if you go to drcaseyjohnson.com drkasey.com. That's DRKASEY Johnson.com. You can find all of those links there as well. All you will have to do is click on the Listen tab. It's at the top of the page. And from there, you'll be able to access the Unlock Wellness podcast, see all of the past guests that have come on the show, read a little bit more about each guest, and then that's going to have everybody's social media accounts, websites, all of those links. So you'll be able to find all of Michelle's info there as well. If you loved today's episode, please jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate the support. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing day.